But I tell you what, I've not been able to play Guardians of the Galaxy for at least the last 3 days, maybe 2 days, I can't remember exactly, because I've been unpacking a lot. And I know that I've managed to sway one member of this crew to also start unpacking a lot.
Yeah. And the other one to download it onto his Xbox, and he just needs to get around to it tonight.
Yeah, Unpacking. So this released a couple of days ago, and I'd seen a couple of people talking about it. And mainly the crucial person, Victoria Chan, who is the community manager for Among Us, she announced that this game had released, and I think she's doing community work for that as well. So it's like, well, hey, if she's involved in some capacity, I'll give it a look. And obviously it's on Game Pass, so I'm going to download it. It is this like very zen puzzle-esque, but very light in terms of what its actual puzzle mechanic is, game about unpacking. You are literally just unpacking boxes in the scenes transition from what seems like a college dorm to your first bedroom to your first flat, and there's clearly this kind of story that's being told. The narrative really is only in the diary entries that you get after you complete a level, and you get like a little script about like, hey, this is my first bedroom, or oh, here we are at college, whatever is said. But all of the storytelling is done on an environment level in terms of the things that you unpack. And there are certain objects that carry over from your first bedroom to your first your college dorm to your first flat. There are the toys that come with you. There are certain books that come with you. All of this kind of stuff that obviously you I don't know if you will at the end of the game, but certainly at this point, the girl that you're playing as, and I presume it's a girl because of some of the items and pieces of clothing, but you never get any kind of sense from actual dialogue about who this person is. It's all done through all of the items that she owns, and it's a really subtle but beautiful way of kind of not exploring this character, but just giving you these kind of like breadcrumbs about who this person might be. So you have that on top of the fact that it's quite satisfying to just throw everything out of these boxes and then spend the time to try and find where they actually go. And the puzzle mechanic is the fact that some items can't go in certain places. You can't take the kettle from the kitchen and put it in the shower room. The game won't let you do it. And what you can do is basically, once everything's out of the boxes, anything that you've got left over that's in the wrong place, it will do like a kind of a flashing red outline around that item to say, hey, this is in the right place, go and figure out where it is. Because the game doesn't kind of explicitly tell you where any of that stuff goes, you're using real world logic to determine that. One of the few minor issues that I have is it's not quite clear what certain items are. I can't tell if one item is a Wacom tablet or a gamepad or something else. I was convinced I was holding like a set of weight scales, which actually turned out to be a chopping board. There's been a couple of times like that, but that is about the only issue I have with this game. Yeah, this is a really, really, really unique and special game that I'm really enjoying, and I honestly want to go and play some more of this when we finish. I have a feeling, Jack, you are exactly the same after we finish this podcast.
Jack had to be yelled at to stop playing it so we could do a podcast.
That is true. I had been unpacking for a couple of hours before we started recording here after dinner, and I'm just enraptured by this game. It's the zen quality of, even though it's a puzzle game, the thing that I like about it is there's a few items that have very specific areas that they need to be like stashed or stored or unpacked into, but the vast majority of it you get complete creative freedom. And one of the things that I think is really interesting was like going on Twitter after I'd done like the first couple of levels and just looking at how other people would unpack the rooms, how they decided to lay objects out and stuff like that. And it's just such a cool concept for a game. Tell me a story about someone's life without telling me a story about their life, just by like a sort of Lloyd Grossman-esque through the keyhole that you're in charge of. You get to place, you have the knowledge of what this person likes and what they're into and what sort of things they own. And the different eras, you get different years as you move into each different designated location. So it gives you a feel, and then you have like time-specific items for that. era, whatever. You get posters you can put up, you get different items of clothes that you can hang in closets, and it's just so relaxing to play. There's a lovely acoustic synthwavey soundtrack that goes on in the background that just sort of like lends a nice atmospheric feel to the whole thing. It's incredibly pleasant. It's so artfully done. It's proof that you don't need Guardians of the Galaxy and heavy metal and explosions and stuff, even though that thing is fucking cool, to make a piece of really good video game art. You can just have a simple concept and encourage people to express themselves through very basic actions, and it will appeal to somebody and it will give them that dopamine hit in a completely different way. And it could not be more polar opposite for me and Mark in us both playing Guardians of the Galaxy and moving over to Unpacking and enjoying them both on a very specific set of levels, and those levels being completely different but it giving you the same feels when you do it. And yeah, I just Unpacking, I had no knowledge of it. I saw what the concept was, I saw Mark's description of it. Dave, as a big Wilmot's Warehouse fan, my god, is this going to be absolutely your shit. It's you know, it's not exactly the same, but there are some very similar ideas and just sort of stacking and fitting things together. Anyone who enjoys Tetris, oh Jack, but you hate Tetris. No, I love Tetris, and it has that sort of appeal to it as well. I just think what a beautiful game. You know, I'm going to probably spend a few more hours with it, however long it takes to finish it, and it will stay with me. It will definitely stay with me for time, because I just think already the impression it's made on me is massive. And yeah, I could not put this thing over more for what it is. You know, is it a Game of the Year contender? Maybe not, but fuck me, is it incredibly enjoyable when you spend time with it.
Yeah, I want to say I spent about 15 minutes trying to establish where the fuck the ukulele goes, and in the end I was able to just shove it under the bed, and it accepted that. So that was kind of my Game of the Year moment.
The first moment that I was like, oh right, some things actually have to be in place. It's like the first level makes you put the diary in the drawer. And that's not a huge spoiler, Dave. Like, that's a very self-explanatory one. But then I absolutely love... Because I don't know about you, Mark, but do you unpack things onto the floor? Because I unpack things and put them in places and then wait for corrections. Because
I kind of do a bit of both. Like, it depends on the room that I'm in and how many boxes are there. Like, because it depends on what you unpack first. Like, if I get a bunch of books, because like you get different books in different sizes, I'll try and stack all of the books in the right level so I can then just pick them all up one at a time and shove them on a shelf. And I love that it does that. Like, it's very user friendly with the little touches like that.
Yeah.
But sometimes, like with the kitchen, because there's too many like ad hoc objects, and like you have some of the bigger objects like the saucepan and whatnot, that I don't want to just go shoving them in the cupboard because I don't know what space I have to work with. So it kind of depends on the room I'm in.
Yeah, I agree. I do like to... There's only one or two things that I'll leave on the floor, and like you say, every now and then you might not establish what an object is, but then what usually gives away to me what an object is me spending more time looking at the environment, realising where I fit other things and going, okay, that's what that is, and that's why that goes in that particular place. And it kind of...
Part of the problem with that, and part of like what I like about the game as well, is not everything. So like for Dave, for clarification, as you play through the game, levels don't have a fixed amount of rooms. So like your first level is just the one room, but then I think the next level is like 3 rooms, and then there's one level I think that's like 4 or 5 rooms, and all of the boxes in a specific room aren't necessarily all tied to that specific room. So like I'll be unpacking in the living room and suddenly I'll pick up a sock that has to go in the bedroom, which, you know, true to life, you know, sometimes you'll pack some stuff and it doesn't all fit into one room. So there are some times when I'll unpack something and I'm like, I don't even know if this is in the right room. But I also like as well that they have the not entirely accurate but very obviously clear tributes to like GameCube controllers and the Wii. There's a lot of Nintendo inspired hardware that you have to put around the living room and whatnot.
Yeah,
so just a lot of little touches like that.
The whole game feels to me like it was made by a Nintendo nerd, like a kid at school who spent all his time on a Game Boy Advance, or like a, you know, talking about Nintendo characters playing Mario and stuff, and, you know, listening to like very obscure but very kind of listenable indie rock music, and walking around in his favorite band t-shirt, and then I realized that this game was probably made by someone like me.
Yeah.
So yeah, the massive thumbs up for Unpacking.
Yeah.